continue our series on Yemen, one of the things I'd like to talk about is the missile capability of the Houthi fighters in the Yemen conflict. The Houthis have actually been able to use their several different types of missiles and artillery rockets to their advantage in the fight against the coalition. Now, the coalition is fairly strong in comparison to the Houthis when it comes to conventional military power. The Saudi Air Force, the UAE forces on the ground, as well as in the air, they have access to capabilities that the Houthis simply don't. Now, one of the tools that the Houthi fighters have been able to leverage to try and strike back against the coalition is the use of these standoff weapons. There's a whole series of weapons that the Houthis use in this category of missiles and rockets to strike back against the coalition forces, both within Yemen and across Yemen's borders inside Saudi Arabia, for example. Some of the most famous missiles that have been launched have been what the Houthis refer to as the Borkan missiles, which are basically modified Scud missiles. Some of these missiles might be older Hwasong missiles that Yemen received at one point from North Korea, but other missiles have proven to actually be Iranian Qiyam missiles that have somehow been smuggled into Yemen and been used by the Houthis. These Borkan missiles are used exclusively by the Houthis to target Saudi Arabia. They haven't used these missiles to target any coalition forces inside Yemen. Of course, these are larger, more expensive, more unique missiles within the Houthi arsenal, so it's pretty obvious that they'll try to keep them for their most important attacks. And in addition to that, the range of these Borkan missiles is vastly higher than any of the other systems they have, so they are the only systems they could use to fire at ranges of Riyadh or Mecca, for example. The Houthis have also gotten pretty creative and have used a remaining stockpile of SA-2 air defense missiles and transformed them into ground attack missiles, which they call the Qaher-2. Now, these missiles still have a significant range, though not as far as the impressive range of the Scud-type missiles. The Houthis use these mostly to strike against border areas of Saudi Arabia, as well as across longer distances within Yemen. Most of the rockets that the Houthis fire actually, and I'm calling these rockets particularly because they are not guided missile systems such as the Borkan and Qaher systems, but most of the rockets that they fire, they refer to as Zelzal missiles. Now, this name, of course, they've borrowed from an existing Iranian type of missile, and there's a lot of confusion about the use of these missiles by the Houthis, but there's actually not been any evidence of legit Iranian Zelzal missiles being present inside Yemen. What we have seen, however, is that the Houthis have different types of rockets, which they refer to as the Zelzal 1, the Zelzal 2, and the Zelzal 3, which are each a different type of improvised rockets. Now, the Houthis have used these in a fairly decent capacity against concentrations of coalition forces inside Yemen. Specifically, they're trying to target logistics bases as well as frontline forces to try and disrupt the movement or preparations for movements by coalition forces and Yemeni government forces on the ground. Now, one of the notable things about the use of these rockets and missiles by the Houthis is the fact that through the breakdown of relationships between the Saleh and Houthi loyalists, we didn't actually see a significant change in the volume or type of use of these missiles. Now, this is something that could have been expected because initially these missiles were in the hand of the former missile forces of the Yemeni army, which were loyal to former President Saleh and got involved in the Houthi rebellion through him. So one of the assumptions was that if that relationship between the Houthis and Saleh loyalists breaks down, it could cause a disruption in access to those missiles. Now, one of the important mitigating factors to this is the involvement by Iran. So the fact that Iran, which works more directly with the Houthi movement than it did with Saleh, the fact that they are involved in this missile program and possibly providing a lot of these missiles and expertise that enable the Houthis to use them means that this has been a more sustainable form of activity despite the breakdown of relationships between the Houthi and Saleh loyalists.